My name is Mrs. Ravenstar, or Estrella, for those of you who maybe haven't met me before. I'm the administrator at the school, but I'm also the play director tonight of the 9th and 10th grade play, A Plot Like Gravy Thickens. And I think this is the first time that I've ever seen a murder mystery done here at our school, and I'm very, very excited to share with you tonight the incredible work of the 9th and 10th graders. They just pulled off something quite incredible in 4 weeks' time, learning their lines, learning so many moments of blocking and staging that it has been really incredible. I laughed today during our earlier performance so hard at some of the moments, so I hope that you will too. They're really an incredible group of people. So a couple of things to take note of. Please make sure your phones are turned off tonight so we don't interrupt. I should warn you that the length of the play is about an hour and 45 minutes. And so if you have to leave at any point, there will be an intermission, about a 5 to 10 minute intermission if you need it. I will also say that part of the length of the play has to do with you, because there will be a moment in the play where we're going to ask you for some audience participation. So when that moment happens, please feel free to participate, and also don't be offended if we have to cut you off at a certain point, because the show can't go on forever and ever, because we have school tomorrow. I think without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the students, and you'll see how the plot, like gravy,
about the girl. We've got bigger worries.
Such as?
That document, or whatever it is Edward is carrying around.
What about it?
It could be our eviction notice.
What do you mean?
I mean, they could be divorce papers. If I'm left out in the cold, you would be too, Tony. We'd both be penniless.
Divorce? Are things that bad between you?
Edward has been very difficult to deal with lately. And he is growing tired of me. At first, I thought he was simply having a mild flirtation with that Dixie Cream Donut Peggy Sue, but now I'm not so sure.
Peggy Sue? She's a knockout. You're more sophisticated than she is, more glamorous than she is.
20 years older than she is. That hominy-fed hussy is one thing I don't, Tony. You. And that's something Edward's money can't buy me.
Edward's money? It should be your money, too, if he hadn't made you sign that agreement.
But he did, so I'm afraid the only possible way that his fortune could possibly become mine, were if he were to drop dead before he divorced me.
Okay, hold it. That was pretty good. Can I have some more lights, please? Thank you. And kill the storm. I think I'll save the rain till later in the scene anyways. That was good. You guys can take a break. I'll call you back on in a minute and introduce you properly. Hello. You caught us at a rather intense moment. I was rehearsing a little scene. Well, you'll see later. I'm a writer, a playwright to be exact. That's not entirely accurate. I represent a playwright. I'm his alter ego, so to speak. It would probably help if I had a name. Let's see. Writer's alter ego. Alter. I know. We'll call me Walter. Close enough? Let's call me Walter. Here's the deal. I thought you might find it interesting to see how I commit a murder. Now, that's not an offer you get every day, is it? The easiest way to show you is to deconstruct a crime. So that is exactly what we're going to do. Now, pay attention. Once you see how easy it is to knock somebody off, you might want to try it yourselves. In your imagination, of course. The first thing I try to picture when I write a new play is the scenery. I'm partial to old mansions like this one that are dark and gloomy. A room like this creates just the perfect ambience for a murder to occur. Don't you think? I'm partial to French doors and fireplaces, and I use them often. When the lights go out, glowing embers and a pale moonlight provide just the right amount of low lighting to evoke a sinister atmosphere. Lower them. Thank you. See? It sort of makes you want to pull out a gun or a knife or a garrote, doesn't it? Excuse me. And as you saw, the French doors also work great if you want to throw in a storm. I've learned to keep the storm effects to a minimum, though. I've learned if they go on too long, people start popping up in the audience and rushing off to the restrooms. That is terribly distracting. 86 to storm, please. I got the feeling you were just about to go off running up the aisles. If you could save it till intermission, I would be extremely grateful. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Archways are good, especially for sudden entrances. I usually share the base of a staircase beyond, so you get the sense that the house is at least 2 stories high. The characters can come and go up and down them to their bedrooms, presumably. A passageway here gives them entrances and exits to the kitchen and other rooms downstairs. There's also a door off up right, which sole purpose is to provide the sound effect for characters entering and exiting the house. See? Somewhere. A door above the fireplace leads to the parlor and provides yet another access for the murderer to do his thing, or hers, should I choose to use it as such. When it comes to killers, I'm an equal opportunist playwright. That brings me to the subject of suspects. I'd like for you to meet the possible killers in tonight's little mystery/comedy. There are quite a few. We'll start with the 2 you saw earlier. Tony! Allegra! Hey guys, come on back out! Oh, I need to mention, this is the living room of powerful and ruthless Edward Worthington III. As you'll soon learn, the other characters have very strong feelings towards the man. You would be surprised how much time I put into thinking up the names for my play's characters. Edward Worthington suggests a mature man with a strong personality, and the third suggests old money passed down through several generations. Admit it, you wouldn't have conjured up that idea of him if I named him Jack Spratt, now would you? Anyways, you'll meet Edward later. This is Allegra Worthington, Edward's wife, his second to be exact. Help me out.
When Edward grew tired of his first wife, Justine, he divorced her and married me. It's an old story. Middle-aged man dumps first spouse for trophy wife. I guess I'm surprised that you didn't name me Emmy or Golden Globe or something.
Not a chance, my dear. Although I go for laughs, I do draw the line at low comedy. Allegra suits you perfectly. The name is beautiful and mysterious, like you.
Thank you. I shall do my best to live up to it.
And, well, I'm Allegra's brother, Tony Blackwell. I'm a bachelor. Can I help it if women find you irresistible? Say, how about you and me meet after the show, baby girl? I know a nice place we can have an intimate dinner. Then maybe we could go dancing, maybe a club.
Hold it, Tony. We better not be going and making the plans for after the show. If I decide to make you the killer in tonight's play, you might find yourself in an intimate little jail cell.
That's true. How about rain check?
I like playboys and use them often. They invariably try to seduce one of the young women. Say, a sweet, innocent maid, for example. This adds suspense to the story. Will she succumb to his charms, or won't she? This is called a subplot. At any rate, if you do make a date with Tony, I absolve myself from all responsibility once the show is over. I can control him here on stage, but out in the real world. Moving along, if you two will be seated at the table, I can continue the introductions. Allegra mentioned Justine Worthington, Edward's ex-wife. This is she and her daughter Deborah, a college student. Justine! Deborah! Justine, what are your feelings towards your former husband?
I despise the...
Remember, this is a G-rated show.
old. When I married Edward, I was young and attractive. I gave him a lovely daughter, Deborah. But when I failed to provide him with a male heir he could mold into becoming as power-hungry and heartless as himself, he made my life a living nightmare.
Father didn't mistreat me. He ignored me. When I was 6 or 7 years old, I had long coats that fell to my waist. One day, I took a pair of scissors and chopped off all my hair to a 1-inch bar cap. That was years before girls ever considered such a style.
Your beautiful curls.
I thought if I looked like a boy, then father would pay more attention to me, but I don't think he even heard to me.
I could forgive Edward for what he did to me, but his actions toward our daughter, I'll resent him till the day that I die. Or he does.
We get the picture. Be seated, lady. Edward has one other family member I need to introduce. Beatrice Worthing. Beatrice Worthington. Excuse me. Beatrice is his sister. She helped raise him from a young age, since his parents were jet setters, constantly zipping around the globe, leaving their offspring at home in the care of nursemaids and the household staff. Beatrice! Beatrice is somewhat befuddled, and it is possible that her brother allows her to live in his house more from a feeling of duty than any actual feelings of affection towards his sibling.
Did somebody call me?
Yes, Miss Beatrice. Why don't you come down and say hello to these lovely people?
People? Oh, hello. It's so nice to see you all. I rarely meet anyone except Edward's business associates, who call occasionally, but I never seem to understand what they're talking about. Oh dear, I didn't realize nearly so many people were coming to Edward's birthday party. I don't think we have nearly enough food.
Don't worry, Miss Beatrice. They will not be joining us for dinner.
Good. Oh dear, it isn't that you're not welcome.
Consider yourself lucky. Stage food is seldom what it's supposed to be. Mashed bananas for whipped potatoes, stuff like that. Starving actors usually love dinner scenes and will eat anything that's not nailed down. Although, there are some food substances that even they shudder to think about. You did very nicely. How about joining Tony and Allegra at the table? As Beatrice mentioned, tonight's gathering is for a very special occasion. Edward Worthington's birthday. His 50th, in fact. If you're wondering why his ex-wife would be present at such a ceremony, it's because Justine was ordered to. And since Edward signs her alimony checks, she figured she'd bite the bullet and showed up. The birthday boy and his current wife haven't been getting along as of late. I suspect he wished Justine to be present to remind Allegra how easily he can dispose of her if she crosses him one time too many. Although, I doubt it's crossed his mind that Allegra can get fed up with him and dispose of him in a different way. Baby brother Tony would be only too willing to help. But I digress. Let me bring in the other party guests. Roy! Roy Phillips is Edward's business manager. He's in charge of overseeing Edward's finances. This includes the money he inherited and the millions generated yearly by Worthington Enterprises, a conglomerate of TV stations and introductions, Roy. A conglomerate of television stations and newspapers and other media-related companies. It's a staggering responsibility that requires a strong-minded individual. It's no doubt that Roy is always uptight and displays all the warmth and humor of a popsicle.
If Edward wants to laugh, he can hire a comedian. I've worked for Edward for 20 years. My employer is brilliant at running his businesses, but relies on me entirely to manage his finances. Sometimes I wonder if he appreciates how good I am at my job.
I have no doubt you're great at it. If you'll find yours at the sofa, I will continue. Another guest at tonight's party is Edward's personal secretary, Peggy Sue Brumley. Peggy Sue? Peggy Sue comes from Alabama, possibly with a banjo on her knee. I say this because Peggy Sue is your typical Southern belle. She goes by both her first and middle names, of course. South of the Mason-Dixon line, you'll find plenty of Peggy Sue's, Peggy Lee's, Peggy Jean's, Peggy Ann's, whatever.
That's how you tell us things apart, Sugarloaf.
Well, shut my mouth. Say hi to all the folks, honey child. Hey, y'all. I admit, I have a great affection for Southern women. They're charming and funny and very bright, although they are great at hiding that fact from you when they want to. they can easily get away with murder because you never suspect such a sweet and innocent thing like Peggy Sue of such a grisly crime.
Well, I certainly hope not. I don't know why Walter would even suggest such a thing. Murder indeed. The very idea gives me the willies. Besides, you'd have to dislike someone heaps and heaps to want them dead, and I'd get along fine with everybody. Well, just about.
And Edward?
Edward can be extremely demanding at times, and real rude when he's in a bad mood. But you can't murder someone just because they have an unpleasant disposition, can you?
Anything's possible. How about joining the family at the table, Peggy Sue?
Sure, sweetie.
I have one last business associates of Edward's to introduce. Lawrence! Lawrence Tate is a lawyer, but that does not necessarily make him the villain of our piece. Though there is no doubt the man knows how to draw up a legal paper. If Lawrence had been around in 1776, he could have whipped out the Declaration of Independence in 15 minutes.
Thank you. I accept the compliment because it happens to be true. You could say I'm especially adept at drafting the modern equivalent of the Declaration of Independence, to wit, divorce papers. If you don't believe me, just ask Justine Worthington. It's also possible that Allegra Worthington, too, may be able to attest to that fact in the near future. Both women have learned the hard way that I can write a marriage contract that is ironclad, one that protects Edward from fortune hunters with complete success.
Thank you for that information, Lawrence.
Anytime, you'll receive my bill in the mail.
I have only myself to blame. I created him, after all. One more set of introductions, and then we'll get this show on the road. The household staff. Staff? In real life, it would take a staff the size of a small platoon to run a mansion as large as Worthington Manor. But for our purposes, these four will do nicely. Sound off, troops!
I am Hollister the butler. I picture Worthington Manor as a huge ocean liner of which I am its captain. The other servants can tell you that I run a tight ship.
That's the truth, and I like it that way. Mr. Worthington's home is a showplace, and I intend to keep it that way.
I'm Ina, the cook. Somebody didn't give me a last name, so I'm just Ina. I keep my mouth shut and my ears open. You'd be surprised what I could tell you about this place, but I won't.
I'm Edith, the maid. I'm a bit shy. I wish I didn't have to stand up here and talk about myself. And I heard what you said about Mr. Tony seducing maids. That makes me nervous.
Don't worry, my dear. We will deal with Tony when the time comes. If I may take center stage. There you have it, folks. The cast of characters in tonight's little mystery. Well, most of them. They'll start the play while I summon Edward Worthington, the key figure in tonight's story. Can I get a blackout and some mood music to provide the transition, please?
Put them on the table, Edith, though I doubt anyone will have much of an appetite.
That would be a shame. Ida has prepared such a lovely dinner. Hot roast, Brussels sprouts, cooked potatoes.
He could have saved himself the trouble and opened a can of Spam. Believe me, this crowd won't have their mind on the cooking. I mean, the guests know Mr. Worthington would not invite them here for the pleasure of their company. He's barely civil to them at best. You mark my words, the boss is up to something.
Come here, Miss Smithers. I found her in the dining room with a knife in one hand and a fork in the other.
I'm hungry. Why don't you have some of Ina's lovely hors d'oeuvres in this feature?
I have to get back to my Brussels sprouts.
Can Can you bring another plate of hors d'oeuvres for the guests? If you could keep her here, I'd appreciate that. I think she'll be content where she is. I need you to stay in here and wait for the other guests to arrive. They'll be here very shortly. I need to check the parlor should anyone wish to retire there after dinner.
Retired? Is it time to go to bed?
Oh, no. Enjoy your snack.
Yes, of course. Would you like to have some? You can eat the ones with the black things on them.
They're olives.
I don't like them. You eat them.
No, thank you, Miss Beatrice. There's some loveliness on the table, too. I'll check on you soon.
That poor woman. You look a hypocrite. Besides, what do you get someone who makes more money in a day than you do a lifetime? A doormat everyone can kneel down to kiss his feet.
I think he owns several of those already. What did you get him?
A necktie is the closest thing to a noose I can think of.
A gold-plated pencil set. Since everything Edward touches turns to gold anyways, I thought it would be very appropriate.
Presents? Are those for me?
No, Beatrice, they're for your brother. It's Edward's birthday.
It is? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, dear. I forgot to buy the little bubble a present. But I could give him a little something I happen to.
That's not necessary. I think it's over here.
Most of them are.
I wasn't really hungry anyways.
What is it?
Some kind of beetle? Must have come up through the French doors.
Oh, it's clouding over. The TV weatherman said it's supposed to storm.
How appropriate. It could get tempestuous inside as well as out.
Tony, Edward has been very difficult to deal with lately. Try not to do anything that might upset him.
I'll try, sister dear. But the fact that I breathe the same air seems to upset Edward.
Excuse me. Oh, I'll put these over here.
More nipples. Oh, nice.
You look very pretty tonight, Edith.
It must be the dress.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. You look nice in your tuxedo and all.
Edith, I imagine I could come up with something for you to do in the kitchen. Why don't you go find out?
Yes,
Really, Tony? You'd have better luck trying to charm some young heiress who could support you. I don't think Mrs. Vickers or Edward are going to let me help you out much longer.
The old skinflint. But don't worry, Allegra. I have enough charm to go through both heiresses and pretty maids. Oh, guests are starting to arrive.
Is the Avon lady here?
Just eat your hors d'oeuvres.
Let me take your presents.
Thank you, Allegra. The life of the party's here.
Mr. Phillips.
Hey, Royal Boy!
Allegra,
Roy,
where is our host?
he'll be down shortly. Make yourself comfortable. I'll get us something to drink.
Corn order.
You can eat the ones with the black things.
Yes, Edith. You can begin to serve the wine.
yes, ma'am.
So, Roy, how are things at the office?
Under control.
I don't doubt it in the least.
How are things wherever you spend your time?
Could it be better, Roy? Could it be better?
Come in, Miss Brody.
I'll have to get Edith to bring in some southern comfort.
probably a money clip.
Silly. Actually, if this used to plow caramel corn, the clerk sure you wouldn't get stale.
What does he care? He probably retired after he made that sale.
It didn't cost a whole heap of liquor, honey. It's a token gift. Anyway, Edward already has everything his little old heart desires.
Does he now?
Roy, Tony, y'all look mighty spiffy tonight.
So do you, Peggy Sue.
Good evening.
In fact, they ought to outlaw a dress like that. The combination could be highly combustible.
I'm only too soon.
Miss Beatrice?
What's in it?
Wine?
Nope. If it's not Sprite, I don't want it.
Right. Yes, grab some, grab a bottle.
Peggy Sue?
Say well, thank you, Tony.
That must be Lawrence. Everyone else is here.
I'm in this tape.
You're right, Allegra.
It had to be he or the delivery boy from Domino's. And I know for a fact that Ina cooked a roast, gravy, with potatoes.
Mr. Tate.
Good evening, Lawrence.
Allegra, everyone.
Good grief, Lawrence. Why do you have your briefcase with you? This is a party. Have you gotten so attached to that thing that you handcuffed it to your wrist like a diplomatic courier?
No, Roy. There's some papers inside that Edward insisted I bring him. If you'll just give me a moment, I have a little present for him. And if you'll excuse me, he asked me to join him in his suite as soon as I arrive.
How typical of Edward. He's always thinking of business, even on his birthday.
What was that? If someone's stomach is growling, maybe one of the black things.
At least everyone arrived before the storm.
Yes, everyone is here.
Now everyone is here.
Tell me, who invited you to the party?
Edward, he didn't invite me. He ordered me to be here.
Father told me to drive down to college as well. He pays the tuition, so I didn't have much choice, did I?
Hello, Deborah dear.
Why didn't you come into French doors? You get lost.
No, Allegra. My sense of direction is fine. I didn't care to have Hollister greet me at the door like a guest. This used to be my home, and he used to be my butler. The situation would have been awkward for the both of us. I prefer to let myself in.
Mom, can you help me have my coat, please?
I've set up games in the parlor if anyone wishes to play after dinner.
Mrs. Vickers, just
When a man reaches his half-century mark, it makes him think, where am I going? Where have I been? And what do I plan to do with the rest of my life? Yes, Edith. Please bring the rest of the staff in here. I have an announcement to make.
Yes, sir.
Where was I? Oh, yes. What do I plan to do with the rest of my life? Well, I intend to make some very important changes around here, for one thing.
Changes? What kind of changes?
It's precisely what I've gathered you all here to discuss.
Edith informed us you wish to see us, Mr. Worthington.
Yes, Hollister. I want all my family, closest business associates, and staff present while I make an announcement. Everybody in this room depends on me to provide them a living. And thus far, I've provided. You would think this would gain me your appreciation, if not affection. Yet, it appears what someone in this room feels is anger, even hatred. It has come to my attention that one among you is a traitor.
You suspect one of us is your enemy?
I don't suspect, Roy. I know. And I have proof. Lawrence,
Move this.
I had Lawrence bring me this. Inside is evidence of the traitor's complicity. Before the night is over, I promise person will pay dearly.
Edward, if you're planning on punishing one of us, why not do it now? Why not get it over with?
I was wondering the same thing, Miss Warrington, if you don't mind my saying so.
I intend to let this worm squirm a while before squashing it. I see you've all brought me gifts. Excellent. After dinner, I will open them, concluding with this, my birthday present to myself. That is when I will rid myself of this backstabbing sycophant once and for all. But until then, let the festivities begin. What are we having for dinner, Ina?
Roast beef, Brussels sprouts, with potatoes.
I can hardly wait. It sounds like a dinner to die for. As you've no doubt guessed, that was a blackout to indicate the end of Act 1, Scene 1. In my shows, that is usually when I introduce you to all the characters and give you an idea of their relations to one another. In tonight's production, it was a little shorter than usual, because since before the play began, I and the characters each told you something about themselves. Now, it's time to get on to Scene 2. This is the this is the scene where the plot thickens. Make that the plot, like gravy, thickens. I had to get the whole title in there, didn't I? Act 1, Scene 2 takes place about 2 hours later. Let's get on with it, shall we? Amber, darling, what you doing in here all by your lonesome? Nearly everybody's in the parlor playing games, waiting for you to open gifts and make the big announcement. They're going through all the motions. Nobody's really interested in Monopoly or Clue. I know a better game we can play. How about you and I slip off and play a game of our own, Peggy Sue?
We can't do that, sugar. You know that.
Now, don't lose your temper, sweet pea.
Besides, I might be the one you're planning to reprimand or whatever.
You? Have you been up to no good, Peggy Sue?
Me? I wouldn't do anything to hurt you, honey lamb, but someone might have told you I've been. Allegra, for instance, she hates me. You know I hate it when somebody hates me.
Allegra has never said a word against you.
If she hasn't, that's because she's afraid to. She knows I'm more to you than an employee. She knows if she asked you to choose between the two of us, you'd toss her away like the used Kleenex.
You think so?
I know you made her sign a prenuptial agreement before you married her, like the one Justine had to.
Of course. I'm too smart to let some fortune hunter take me for millions.
But before you divorce them, your wives get to live like queens. Allegra has ridden the merry-go-round long enough. It's time someone else gets a turn. Why, who knows? You might have already found a woman you want to spend the rest of your life with.
We'll see, Peggy Sue. Before the night is over, there will be quite a few changes around here.
Well then, if you don't mind, I'm going to go into one of the upstairs bathrooms and freshen up a bit. Now, don't go revealing your big announcement till I get back. I don't suppose you'd give me a clue who it is you plan to fire or whatever.
I can't do that, Peggy Sue.
Even if I power?
Even if you power.
Well then, I won't waste the pucker. They make little lines around your mouth anyway. I'll be back in a shake of hands.
Here you are, Edward. Beatrice, are you looking for me?
Yes,
What is it?
I listened to what you said to all of us earlier, but I'm confused.
I expected that.
I think you're happy with one of us,
At least one.
and you're going to punish someone.
That's my plan.
I hope it isn't me.
You? Have you misbehaved?
I don't think so. I try to be good. I try really hard.
Then what are you worried about?
Those papers in the envelope. I'm worried they might be papers to, what do you call them? To put me in a home.
Papers?
Yes, that's it. You wouldn't send me away. Would you, Edward? I've lived here all my life. We both have. I don't want to go anywhere else.
I would hate to send you away, Beatrice, but if you've been bad and need to be punished for something,
I wouldn't. I haven't.
we'll see. Do you know Mr. Jameson, Beatrice?
James. No, I don't think so.
Paul Jameson?
James.
very interesting.
Yes, Mr. Worthington?
Hollister, my sister is tired. I thought you might have time enough to brew her a cup of tea to refresh her.
I'd be glad to. Why don't you come with me, Miss Beatrice?
With you? Of course. Where are we going, Hollister?
To the kitchen. We're going to have some tea.
A tea party?
If you'd like.
Oh, I would.
You're wearing a very nice perfume, Miss Beatrice. Is it new?
Yes, it's called Primrose.
The embers are low. What's so important you pulled me away from the table, Roy? I own Boardwalk in Park Place. Someone lands on my property while I'm in here, I'll lose a fortune in rent.
For Pete's sake, Lawrence, it's just a game.
One that you were losing. I hope you do a better job of managing Edward's financial affairs than you do at Monopoly. So, what did you want to see me about?
Those papers Edward had you bring tonight. What are they?
Good grief, Roy. You know I can't answer such a question. How long do you think Edward would retain me as his lawyer if I ran around revealing such privileged information?
It's just, you heard what he said about there being a traitor among the group tonight. And I took money out of Edward's account and put it into my personal account, quite a sizable amount.
Why would you do that?
Well, a major television station that Edward has wanted for a while now has gone on the market. And if people shows interest in it, then they'll double the asking price. But if I put an offer in my name and they accept, I'll purchase it and revert it to Worthington Enterprises.
I see.
Now that I've explained it, but if Edward noticed the transfer and doesn't know why I did it,
Say no more. Want some free advice? If I were you, I'd hang on to that get out of jail free card you drew.
this is no joking matter.
You're right. Why are you telling me about this? Why not tell Edward?
If he doesn't suspect me as the traitor, then there's no reason to bring it up to him. He's never showed any interest in how I invest his money until now.
And why call attention to it if you don't have to, right?
Yes. Well, if you'll tell me if those papers relate to me.
I don't know.
What?
I have no idea what's in that envelope, Roy. Edward instructed me on my way here to go into his office, look in his desk drawer, and pull out that blank envelope he saw earlier with the wax seal. He told me to bring it here and show him I have it, immediately upon arrival.
I
That's
assumed
what I
you
did.
knew.
As did everyone else, I expect. Edward could have brought that envelope home himself. I figured he had me show it to everyone, to stir things up. The fact is, I'm as much in the dark as you are about its contents.
So the papers could relate to you as much as anyone.
Me? I haven't done anything to feel guilty about. My conscience is clear.
Is it? Is it really?
Mom, I will have that. I don't know where I hide my money. I trust. Oh, where is it? Rob, are you okay? What's the matter with you?
Nothing. I'm going for some fresh air.
But Rob, there's gonna be a stove. Oh dear, I wish he didn't go outside when there's a stove.
I guess he figures the wrath of Mother Nature is nothing compared to Edward's.
Florence, he ruled for you and Roy. You went bankrupt. I won.
So I heard.
I think this belongs to me. The way I see it, get it while you can. Edward taught me that.
Mom?
Don't worry, dear. I'll hold my temper at least until Edward makes his announcement. After that, anything goes. If you hear a rumble, it's Agatha Christie spinning in her grave. Calm down, Aggie! So, Lawrence, how about telling us what's in that envelope Edward has been carrying around near and dear to his heart, if he had one?
Roy was wondering the same thing just moments ago. As I told him, I don't know.
You don't? I thought, never mind.
Why should you be concerned, Deborah?
Father arranged the college to send me a copy of my grades this semester. Not that he cares about me. He's more interested in how his money is being spent. I had problems lately, and I didn't do so hard in most of my classes.
And you're worried he might cut off your tuition.
Yes, if he does, I'll cut off his neck.
You don't know what he's planning until he decides to tell us. Until then, the contents of that envelope will remain a mystery.
I'm back, Kitty Bunny. Fresh as a daisy. Oh!
He was in here a little while ago. Have you all seen him?
No, and that's how I like it.
I After his announcement, he's been lying low.
Not low enough. 16 under.
Mom, you don't know.
Don't tell?
Oh, fresh doors open. Wonder if he went out there.
No, no, he did.
So, Peggy Sue, you've made yourself fresh as a daisy, and you're looking for Eddie Honey. How personal of a secretary are you?
I don't have the foggiest notion what you mean.
Oh, I think you do. It seems to me you're setting yourself up to be the third, Miss Worthington the third.
Whatever I do is none of your business.
Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. If Edward divorces Allegra and marries you, he may decide 2 ex-wives are more than he wants to keep. I was going to ask Lawrence here if he knows what's in that envelope, but he says he doesn't know if it's a prenuptial agreement.
You don't?
Your guess is as good as mine, my dear.
A prenuptial agreement. Golly, I sure hope it is. I hadn't thought of that. I'm gonna go get him right now and tell him to open his gifts.
Guess I just made her day.
Honor to me that Peggy Sue could be my next stepmother.
Hey, look at the bright side. If you move back home, Peggy Sue can cook you grits for breakfast.
I would rather eat graver, and I would rather die and live under this roof with Father again.
Mrs. Vickers had me serve tea in the parlor if anyone's interested. Coffee in the parlor.
That sounds good, ladies.
I would like a cup.
Might need some caffeine for energy in case I get into a fight before the shindig is over. Not kidding, dear.
I was wondering when I'd catch you alone.
But Mrs. Vickers said,
Never mind what that old dragon told you. She's not around. Don't worry, Edith. Something wrong?
it's Miss Beatrice.
Beatrice? You mean Miss Looney Tunes?
Don't say that. Just gets a little confused sometimes.
Sorry, meant that in the nicest way. So, tell me about her.
Miss Beatrice has been acting rather odd lately.
Lately?
More than usual. She started taking things around the house.
Things? What kind of things?
A crystal ashtray, Fabergé, and
Fabergé? We're not talking cheap trinkets here, are we?
no, sells the objects for very valuable.
So, what does she do with them?
Oh no, she hides them away to take out and look at later. We find things stuck away in strange places. We put them back where they belong.
So, there's no harm done. What are you so worried about?
We're afraid Mr. Worthington could think that we're stealing from him. Those papers he brought tonight, our dismissal papers. Mine, Mrs. Vickers, Ina's, Hollister's.
So, if they are, tell them you're all innocent. Tell them Beatrice has the sticky fingers.
He'd have her put away. Don't you see? That's what we've been worried about this whole time. If we weren't here to protect her,
She'd be sent to a funny farm long ago. There, Edith. I can't stand to see a woman cry. It makes me want to take her into my arms and comfort her.
I can't. We mustn't.
There's a strong attraction between us, Edith. There's no need to fight it.
I'm dismissed.
Edward's not around, and what he doesn't know won't hurt us.
Tony.
Everything will be all right, my sweet. Just trust me.
Edith! That butcher there is slurping up coffee like camels at a watering hole. We need another pot. Tell Ina.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have the urge for something sweet, Mr. Blackwell, we'll be serving birthday cake shortly. You know what I mean. Edith is a nice girl, and I intend to see she stays that way. Is that a threat? Take it any way you will. If I catch you near her again, I will tell Mr. Worthington what you're up to, and you know as well as I how he feels about you. It won't take much for him to throw you out on your ear.
Why, you?
Save your breath, you good-for-nothing slime. Edith is off limits. You have been warned.
That witch!
Not referring to me, brother, dear.
No, I was referring to Mrs. Vickers.
Why? Did she catch you trying to raise a pantry?
No, I was talking to the maid.
Sure you were. I told you to stay away from Edith. Mrs. Vickers is very protective towards her.
So I found out.
Forget about the girl. We've got bigger worries.
Such as?
That document or whatever it is Edward is carrying around, our eviction notice.
What do you mean?
I mean, it could be divorce papers. If I'm left out in the cold, you would be too, Tony. We'd both be penniless.
Divorce? Are things that bad between you?
Edward has grown tired of me, and I suspect he's already picked out my replacement. At first I thought he was simply having a mild flirtation with that Dixie Cream donut Peggy Sue. Now, I'm not so sure.
Peggy Sue, she's a knockout, but you're more sophisticated than she is, more glamorous than she is.
20 years older than she is. That Tommy fantasy is one thing I don't, Tony. Youth. And that's something Edward's money can't buy me.
Edward's money, it should be your money too, if he hadn't made you sign that agreement.
But he did, so I'm afraid the only way his fortune could possibly become mine, whereas if he were to drop dead before he divorced me.
But how would that happen? He's as healthy as a horse.
I mean, even horses have accidents.
Allegra, what are you suggesting?
Nothing, Tony. Nothing.
Excuse me, Mrs. Worthington, Mr. Blackwell.
Yes, Hollister, what is it?
Ina is bringing me the cake. We thought we'd gather everyone in here where Mr. Worthington can cut it and open his gifts.
Very good, Hollister. Where is Edward?
I don't know, madam. I haven't seen him since dinner.
Neither have we.
I'll look from upstairs. Tony, why don't you tell the other guests in the parlor? And Hollister, make sure you get everything ready.
Yes, madam.
We'll be right back.
Oh, and Hollister, you'd better bring a towel. At the end of this, somebody's gonna be crying their eyes out.
Not mine, sir. If there's any justice, it will be you. Set the cake here, Ina.
Thank you. Looks beautiful, Ida.
Too big for the likes of Mr. Worthington, but thank you.
Watch what you say, Ina. You never know who listens.
I know, but he makes me so angry sometimes. I daren't even have the nerve to say my whipped potatoes were a little cold.
I didn't compliment the gravy, though. He said it was nice and thick.
He's just trying to get on my good side. You know he had angered me, and one of these days I'm gonna chop him up just like the rest of you.
Mr. Worthington left instructions plain to be served with the cake. Ina, eat it this way. I'd better check the downstairs bathroom for fresh hand towels.
Well, well. It appears my little envelope has created quite a stir. It appears everybody under this roof has something to answer for. And before the night is over, they will.
Just made it. I thought the rain wouldn't hold off for much longer. Oh, Edward. I just went out for a breath of fresh air.
Did. The miracles never cease.
Well, it wasn't easy to find my way back. Your state is so large.
Which, fortunately, I can afford. Can't I, Roy? I mean, my investments are sound, aren't they?
Yes, of course. Why do you ask?
It's been a while since I went over the books. I think it's about time I look over them with you. Say, next week?
Go do. Let's schedule some time Friday.
Monday, 9 o'clock, sharp.
Whatever you say.
It's party time, everyone. Be seated.
My goodness, Edward. I thought you had disappeared. Where have you been?
Here and there. Have a seat, Sue.
Sure, sweetie.
Place them on the table with the cake.
Remain with us. I didn't dream of leaving you servants on festivities.
Yes, Mr. Worthington.
And last to arrive is my loving wife, Allegra. I see, Allegra. The moment you've all been anxiously awaiting has arrived. What should I do first? Cut the cake? Or open the gifts? The gifts? Are you sure? looks delicious. You've outdone yourself, Ina.
Thanks.
I don't know if I can resist till later. I mean, Ina did work hard to make it in my honor. What's in it?
Devil's food.
I'm right. I suspect you're not the only one.
Oh, for goodness sake, Edward, stop toying with us. You know no one here cares about the gifts, or the champagne, or the stupid cake. Just tell us what's in the envelope.
So, you prefer the cutting to the chase to cutting the cake, do you, my dear? Very well. Since you're all so consumed with curiosity to know, I'll get on with it. What a harmless-looking piece of paper it is. Yet, what a commotion it has caused.
Of course it has, Edward. You're holding someone's fate in your hand.
More than one person possible.
How right you are, daughter. How right you are.
Tell us whose, Edward.
We're all dying to know what's in the envelope.
Get on with it.
Please.
Very well. I'll let you do the honors, my dear. Open it.
They're blank! Is this your idea of a joke?
Not at all! Sit down! I've suspected for some time that all of you have been keeping secrets from me, if not plotting and scheming to do me harm. I figured it was time to get everything out in the open. How did I do this, you ask? A little party game I devised. Let's call it the envelope game. By making you think there are papers in there that could reveal your deceitful nature. Each and every one of you projected your worst fears onto that envelope. All I had to do was stay out of sight and listen, and they all came tumbling out. Roy's private investments using my money, Tony's philandering, Deborah's failing grades, Justine's fear I cut off her support, Beatrice's kleptomania that my faithful servants have kept under wraps. I even discovered, inadvertently, to a comment Beatrice made, the main secret I set out to unearth tonight. Namely, the one of you who has been selling information to a Paul Jameson. That is the man who announced he's writing one of those malicious tell-all biographies about me. I believe the Bar Association frowns upon such unethical behavior, Lawrence.
What? I?
Sit down! I'll deal with you later. And to wrap up the litany of your offenses, there's my loving wife, Allegra. Told her brother she'd like to see me dead.
I did not! You misunderstood me!
Oh, I understood you perfectly, my dear. It appears the only one among you I can trust is my future bride, Peggy Sue.
Oh, Edward!
She's marrying me for my money, but at least she's honest enough to admit it.
Not just for the money, anybody. I love you too.
I believe you. Almost.
So what do we do now, Edward?
Peggy Sue and I are leaving. I've arranged a weekend's getaway at a cozy little inn. By the time we return, I expect all of you to be out of this house. Shortly, you will all be out of my life. Forever.
The light! The lights!
Oh dear. It must be the storm.
Ow, my foot. Everyone, it's being called. Generators are just
Sorry.
sensing currents. It should activate automatically any moment now. There, you see?
See?
No way.
He's dead! Freeze! Wasn't that exciting? I wrote corn syrup and red food coloring. Whew. I'll probably get a sugar high like you wouldn't believe. That was the end of Act 1. It's time for intermission. You can get up and stretch your legs and do whatever you need to do. I'll see you in 5 to 10 minutes. So, Edward Rutherford III is dead, and one of you killed him. Welcome back. It's me, Walter. Act 1 came easily enough, but Act 2 is the tricky one. A murder has been committed. committed and needs to be solved. Sometimes in my mysteries, I isolate the characters, say, on an island, or a mountaintop, or in a forest during a blizzard. The killer will cut the phone lines, trapping the victims there with him or her. In cases like that, I usually bring in a homicide. The murder is usually solved by an amateur sleuth among them, a Miss Marple or Jessica Fletcher wannabe, for example. But in other cases, such as this one, I bring in a homicide detective to solve the case. I will be playing just such a character, Lieutenant James McMillan. If you've been taking notes on how to commit a murder, you should have written down that you need to provide each and every one of the suspects with a motive and opportunity to do in the victim. Everybody here has had a motive to kill Edward, except Peggy Sue, who stood to gain access to his fortune had he lived.
I have rotten luck.
Not as rotten as Edward's.
As I was saying, all but Miss Dixie Cup had a motive to murder the man. In Act 2, Lieutenant James McMillan, I, will search for clues. I can't let them all do all the work, now can I? Oh, in case you're wondering how we created that great special effect with the knife, when the lights went out, we hid the real knife under a pile of napkins on the table, and Beatrice picked up a matching knife handle with a magnet attached to it. Edward, or me, wore a shirt with a magnet glued to the back. And while all this commotion was happening, Edward, me, took a blood capsule out of his pocket, bit down on it. Simple, huh? I digress. It's time to get into Act 2. Keep your eyes and ears open. Who knows? You might solve this murder before I do. Now, on with the show. So, at this point, you've all told me as a group what happened. I intend to question each and every one of you individually, starting with Miss Brumley.
Lieutenant McMillan, if we're excused, I need to wash my hands.
I think everyone should before they get ink on the furniture. Miss Beatrice already painted the coffee tabletop.
I apologize, but it is standard procedure to fingerprint all the suspects at a crime scene.
May I suggest the guests gather in the parlor? There's a half bath across the hall. The staff can wait in the kitchen until you're ready for us.
That's a good idea.
What would you like to know, Lieutenant?
Let's see. Peggy Sue. You were Edward's personal secretary. About how long did you serve in that capacity?
About 6 months or so, I guess. I mean, I've worked for Worthington Enterprise for a couple of years now. But when Edward's personal assistant retired last June, he pulled me from the secretarial pool and gave me her job.
And obviously, your relationship got much more personal if he announced his intention to marry you, right?
What can I say? It happens. I would have made Edward a good wife, Lieutenant. Better than that ice cube he was married to. A leg that can shoot you a look that'd give you frostbite. If I had to say so. She's your murderer, Lieutenant McMillan.
In my experience, jilted spouse usually strikes out against the competition. In this case, you.
You mean she would have gone after me with that pig sticker? Golly, the very idea gives me the shivers.
Allegra Worthington may well have killed her husband. I'm just saying there are other possibilities.
I have to admit, you're right. But I can't say anything bad about anybody. I'd rather stitch my lips shut than do that. And Roy and Tony had good reasons to kill Edward too. He was planning to fire them both. And report Lawrence is dealing with that writer Jameson at the Bar Association.
So I noted. His sister, his wife, and staff all had motives to end his life as well. If there's anything worse than having no suspects in a murder case, it's having too many. You're the only one who stood to lose not to be named by Mr. Worthington's death. You're the only one I feel sure didn't stab the man.
Thanks a bunch. If I could go home now, I'm about to absolutely collapse. But first, may I look
thing she'll do is give me the axe. Golly, I wish I hadn't said it like that. Who's just walked over my grave?
I beg your pardon?
That's what we say in the South when we get the shivers. A goose just walked over my grave.
Huh. It's a quaint expression, although I don't see how anyone would link poultry with the hereafter. I gather it's used to express a feeling of impending doom.
I guess so. In that case, a whole flock of geese just stopped over at Edward Cemetery plot a few hours ago. Anyway, can I go home now, Lieutenant McMillan?
I'm afraid not, Piggy Sue. I may have some more questions for you after I interrogate the others.
Well then, I'll leave the parlor if you need me.
My goodness. Pete, it's McMillan here. How are the fingerprints coming?
That's it? The only discernible prints on the handle were Mr. Worthington's and his wife's?
No, that's too bad. Yeah, everybody saw him hand her the knife to open the envelope. Uh-huh, yeah.
What? You found traces of what? That could be a vital clue. Excellent work, Pete.
Uh-huh. No, I'm afraid not. They've all been fingerprinted, as you know, and are washing their hands now. There goes the evidence right down the drain. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out another way. Yeah. If I'm going to figure out who murdered Edward Worthington III, I've got my work cut out for me. No, sorry, that was not meant to be a pun. Yeah, no, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Pete. I'll check with you later. Yes, Edith, is it? Please bring the rest of the staff in here. I have a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
You wish to see us, Lieutenant McMillan?
Yes. Have a seat, please. I have a couple more questions regarding what took place this evening.
I don't see how we can help you, Lieutenant. You're in the kitchen for most of the evening.
It's what took place in the kitchen that I'm interested in at this point. Specifically, the murder weapon. The knife.
My knife? What about my knife?
Where is it usually kept?
In a butcher's box. It's part of the set.
It's seldom there, though. It's Annie's favorite kitchen tool.
I use it to slice and dice everything, not including people.
I'm not thinking anything at the moment.
A good sharp knife is hard to come by. I'd like to have it back after this whole thing, if that's not too morbid.
That's too morbid.
I'd rather use the knife while preparing dinner.
Naturally, I used it to chop up some fresh chives for my whipped potatoes.
What else was served?
Roast beef, Brussels sprouts,
A salad?
congealed jello and fruit.
Now, at first, I considered titling this play, The Blood, Like Jello Congeals. But then I thought, that's pretty gross. I wouldn't want to go see a play titled that. Would you? So, you didn't prepare a salad dressing, say, oil and vinegar?
No, sir.
I see. And what did you do with the knife after dinner was prepared, Anna?
Cleaned it along with all the other utensils.
And who touched it after that?
I did. I instructed me to put it on the tray with the silverware and other things for the cake. It was still a bit damp when I took it out of the dishwasher, so I wiped it off with a hand towel before I brought it out.
And no one touched it. There were no fingerprints on the handle, except possibly yours, or traces of food on the handle before you brought it out here. Each and every one of you projected your worst fears onto that envelope. All I had to do was stay out of sight and listen, and they all came tumbling out. Roy's private investments using my money, Tony's philandering, Deborah's failing grades, Justine's fear cut off her support, Beatrice's kleptomania that my faithful servants have kept under wraps. I even discovered, inadvertently, to a comment Beatrice made, the main secret I set out to unearth tonight. Namely, the one of you who has been selling information information to a Paul Jameson. That is the man who announced he's writing one of those malicious tell-all biographies about me. I believe the Bar Association frowns upon such unethical behavior, Lawrence.
What? I?
Sit down! I'll deal with you later. And to wrap up the litany of your offenses, there's my loving wife, Allegra. Told her brother she'd like to see me dead.
I did not. You misunderstood me.
Oh, I understood you perfectly, my dear. It appears the only one among you I can trust is my future bride, Peggy Sue.
Oh, Edward!
She's marrying me for my money, but at least she's honest enough to admit it.
Not just for the money, everybody. I love you too.
I believe you. Almost.
So what do we do now, Edward?
Peggy Sue and I are leaving. I've arranged a weekend's getaway at a cozy little inn. By the time we return, I expect all of you to be out of this house. Shortly, you will all be out of my life. Forever.
The light! The lights!
Oh dear, it must be the storm.
Ow, my foot. Everyone, remain calm. Generators are just
Sorry.
sensing currents. It should activate automatically any moment now. There, you see?
See?
No way.
He's dead! Freeze! Wasn't that exciting? I wrote corn syrup and red food coloring. Whew. I'll probably get a sugar high like you wouldn't believe. That was the end of Act 1. It's time for intermission. You can get up and stretch your legs and do whatever you need to do. I'll see you in 5 to 10 minutes. So, Edward Williams III is dead, and one of you killed him. Welcome back. It's me, Walter. Act 1 came easily enough, but Act 2 is the tricky one. A murder has been committed and needs to be solved. Sometimes in my mysteries, I isolate the characters, say, on an island, or a mountaintop, or in a forest during a blizzard. The killer will cut the phone lines, trapping the victims there with him or her. In cases like that, I usually bring in a homicide. The murder is usually solved by an amateur sleuth among them, a Miss Marple or Jessica Fletcher wannabe, for example. But in other cases, such as this one, I bring in a homicide detective to solve the case. I will be playing just such a character, Lieutenant James McMillan. If you've been taking notes on how to commit a murder, you should have written down that you need to provide each and every one of the suspects with a motive and an opportunity to do in the victim. Everybody here has had a motive to kill Edward, except Peggy Sue, who stood to gain access to his fortune had he lived. I have rotten luck.
Not as rotten as Edward's.
As I was saying, all but Miss Dixie Cup had a motive to murder the man. In Act 2, Lieutenant James McMillan, I, will search for clues. I can't let them all do all the work, now can I? Oh, in case you're wondering how we created that great special effect with the knife, when the lights went out, we hid the real knife under a pile of napkins on the table, and Beatrice picked up a matching knife handle with a magnet attached to it. Edward, or me, wore a shirt with a magnet glued to the back. And while all this commotion was happening, Edward, me, took a blood capsule out of his pocket, bit down on it. Simple, huh? I digress. It's time to get into Act 2. Keep your eyes and ears open. Who knows? You might solve this murder before I do. Now, on with the show. So, at this point, you've all told me as a group what happened. I intend to question each and every one of you individually, starting with Miss Brumley.
Edward, Lieutenant McMillan, if we're excused, I need to wash my hands.
I think everyone should before they get ink on the furniture. Miss Beatrice already painted the coffee tabletop.
apologize, but it is standard procedure to fingerprint all the suspects at a crime scene.
May I suggest the guests gather in the parlor? There's a half bath across the hall. The staff can wait in the kitchen until you're ready for this.
That's a good idea.
What would you like to know, Lieutenant?
Let's see. Peggy Sue. You were Edward's personal secretary. About how long did you serve in that capacity?
About 6 months or so, I guess. I mean, I've worked for Worthington Enterprise for a couple of years now. But when Edward's personal assistant retired last June, he pulled me from the secretarial pool and gave me her job.
And obviously, your relationship got much more personal if he announced his intention to marry you tonight.
What can I say? It happens. I would have made Lieutenant. I would have made Edward a good wife, Lieutenant. Better than that Ice Cube he was married to. A leg that can shoot you a look that'd give you frostbite. If I had to say so. She's your murderer, Lieutenant McMillan.
In my experience, Jill's spouse usually strikes out against the competition. In this case, you.
You mean she would have gone after me with that pig sticker? Golly, the very idea gives me the shivers.
Allegra Worthington may well have killed her husband. I'm just saying there are other possibilities.
I have to admit, you're right. But I can't say anything bad about anybody. I'd rather stitch my lips shut than do that. And Roy and Tony had good reasons to kill Edward too. He was planning to fire them both. And report Lawrence is dealing with that Ryder Jameson at the Bar Association.
So I noted. His sister, ex-wife, and staff all had motives to end his life as well. If there's anything worse than having no suspects in a murder case, it's having too many. You're the only one who stood to lose not to be named by Mr. Worthington's death. You're the only one I feel sure didn't stab the man.
Thanks a bunch. If I could go home now, I'm about to absolutely collapse. But first, may I look up the classifieds?
The classifieds?
Well, yes, Lieutenant. When I lost Edward, I lost my job. If Electra's going to take over Worthington Enterprise, the first thing you'll bet your boots, the first thing she'll do is give me the axe. Golly, I wish I hadn't said it like that. A goose just walked over my grave.
I beg your pardon?
That's what we say in the South when we get the shivers. A goose just walked over my grave.
Huh. It's a quaint expression, although I don't see how anyone would link poultry with the hereafter. I gather it's used to express a feeling of impending doom?
I guess so. In that case, a whole flock of geese just stopped over Edward's cemetery plot a few hours ago. Anyway, can I go home now, Lieutenant McMillan?
I'm afraid not, Piggy Sue. I may have some more questions for you after I interrogate the others.
Well then, I'll leave the parlor if you need me.
My goodness. Pete, it's McMillan here. How are the fingerprints coming? That's it? The only discernible prints on the handle were Mr. Worthington's and his wife's? No, that's too bad. Yeah, everybody saw him hand her the knife to open the envelope. Uh-huh, yeah. What? You found traces of what? That could be a vital clue. Excellent work, Pete. Uh-huh. No, I'm afraid not. They've all been fingerprinted, as you know, and are washing their hands now. There goes the evidence right down the drain. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out another way. Yeah. If I'm going to figure out who murdered Edward Worthington III, I've got my work cut out for me. No, sorry, that was not meant to be a pun. Yeah, no, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Pete. I'll check with you later. Yes, Edith, is it? Please bring the rest of the staff in here. I have a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
kitchen that I'm interested in at this point. Specifically, the murder weapon. The knife.
My knife? What about my knife?
Where is it usually kept?
In a butcher's box. It's part of the set.
It's seldom there, though. It's Daddy's favorite kitchen tool.
I use it to slice and dice everything, not including people.
I'm not thinking anything at the moment.
Good sharp knife is hard to come by. I'd like to have it back after this whole thing. That's not too morbid.
That's too morbid.
I'd rather use the knife while preparing dinner.
Naturally, I used it to chop up some fresh chives for my whipped potatoes.
What else was served?
Roast beef, Brussels sprouts,
A salad?
congealed jello, and fruit.
Now, at first, I considered titling this play, The Blood, Like Jello Congeals. But then I thought, that's pretty gross. I wouldn't want to go see a play titled that. Would you? So, you didn't prepare a salad dressing, say, oil and vinegar?
No, sir.
I see. And what did you do with the knife after dinner was prepared, Anna?
Cleaned it along with all the other utensils.
And who touched it after that?
I did. I instructed me to put it on the tray with the silverware and other things for the cake. It was still a bit damp when I took it out of the dishwasher, so I wiped it off with a hand towel before I brought it out.
And no one touched it. There were no fingerprints on the handle, except possibly yours, or traces of food on the handle before you brought it out here?
No, sir. It wasn't out of my sight the whole time.
Excellent. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to know. You've all been very helpful.
If it's a matter of any of our fingerprints being on the knife.
It isn't that. Hollister? The only discernible prints on the knife were Mr. and Mrs. Worthington's, whom we know touched it.
I see. How have we hoped?
I will tell you later. I hope. For now, I need to take a look around the kitchen, if I may.
As you wish. This way, Lieutenant Ward.
Tony, are you eavesdropping?
No, I just happened to be listening in this general direction. So, the murderer didn't leave any prints on the knife.
Unless it was Miss Worthington.
Allegra? It can't be her.
It was too dark to see. How do you know?
Well, for one thing, Allegra was standing in front of him. If she had taken the knife and stabbed him, she would have struck him in the chest.
Maybe, but he could have started toward the light switch when the lights went out.
Clever girl, as well as pretty. I knew you were special from the first time I looked at you. Let's slip outside for a little while so we can be alone.
Lieutenant McMillan will want to question you too.
He's not for a while. He's too busy with the large, happy homemaker and Betty Crocker.
It's cold out there.
Don't worry, I'll keep you warm.
He thinks I did it. Lieutenant thinks I hurt Edward.
Why would he, boy? Why should he suspect you any more than the rest of us?
I can tell he doesn't believe I put the money in my account on Edward's behalf.
Oh, come on, Roy. Why not? I mean, I almost believe you.
It could be you.
Me? You think I murdered Edward? That's ridiculous. You know how sophisticated and flawless I am, Roy. If I had tried to grab a knife in the dark, instead of stabbing Edward somewhere in the back, I would have perfect aim and stab him right in the heart.
That's true. Where's the lieutenant? I want to volunteer for questioning. My
When
nose
I
is
came
shot.
out of that half bath across the hall a few minutes ago, I saw him going towards the kitchen with all the servants.
Did you see any aspirin?
No, I'm afraid I did not. Although Allegra keeps some in the guest suite. You can go and look for it, though, because I have a certain someone I've been meaning to talk to.
Have you seen Edith?
No, I haven't.
That's odd. There's got to be something in here to put them in.
It didn't happen. I'm sure the dogs
could all go home. I suppose that's not likely to happen.
Mom, you don't do it. Did you kill Father?
No, dear. I can't take credit for that. Though, I've threatened to his friends. I suppose I was always cutting down on him. But I didn't do it literally.
I thought you could publicly pretending like you never died.
He seems like a pretty smart guy. The detective should realize that if I were to have knocked off Edward, I would have done it years ago when he left us to marry Allegra, the shark woman. He'd have a hard time proving I killed my ex in a fit of anger that lasted 10 years.
If anyone could hold a garden that long, you could, Justine. Except with that sharp tongue of yours, you wouldn't have even needed a knife. You could have listened to.
Well, speak of the devil, and she appears. Still here? I'm surprised you didn't make the most of this opportunity and run off and buy a new black dress.
With what? You know I don't have any money of my own, and Edward's accounts will be frozen for quite some time.
Speaking of money, the fact that he was supporting Deborah and I should be proof that I didn't kill Edward. I'm not dumb enough to slay the goose who's laying the golden eggs.
Tonight, he threatened to cut off your income.
I know, but he's done that for years. Every time I ticked him off, which was often. Oh, if he actually did stop my alimony checks, I might consider homicide, but not until then.
Fury, Oh,
Let me explain.
what's going on?
A meeting of Edward's wives. Past, present, and future. They're just waiting for you.
What was going out there?
That snake in the grass from Lawrence tried to take a pass at me.
Peggy Sue.
Keep your scaly hands away from me. I told Lawrence I'll be looking for a new job now that Edward's dead. He tried to offer me one with his firm and show me some of the fringe benefits. If Edward could see what you did, he would be spinning in his grave, if you were in it yet.
How did Father see Lawrence if you were in his grave?
Oh, you know what I meant.
I felt a tremendous attraction to you for a long time, Peggy Sue. But I couldn't tell you as long as Edward.
Was alive. Well, it seems as though Edward's trusted lawyer has yet another reason to murder him.
For once, I have to agree with you, Allegra. Though it hurts me like a toothache to admit it.
You think I would murder Edward because I too have romantic and beautiful feelings for Peggy Sue?
That's a good thing, because I wouldn't have you on a Christmas tree.
I could give you to your boss. What if he millions?
What if it was? I'm tired of being poor. As my grandma always said, love is fleeting, honey, but money lasts forever.
Are you sure you're not descended from Scarlett O'Hara?
That ought to teach him a lesson.
Mrs. Vickers, you shouldn't have.
He can't say I didn't warn him.
But,
Don't mind us, we're just passing through.
Tony, your nose.
It's nothing compared to what my eyes are gonna look like.
Maybe next time you'll listen to me. Come on, let's go clean it up and have a bath.
You men, you're all alike.
What? I'm not like Tony. I was only trying to comfort you.
You need a person's consent to comfort them, let alone try and kiss them. Be warned, I'll take Mrs. Vickers' advice and give you a bloody nose and a black eye.
Everybody is back in here. Are we playing a new game?
No, Anthony, we want to playing a game with my news.
That's sweet, Deborah. One of these days, I'll surprise you and win one. Are there any nickels in here? I was saving room for birthday cake, so I didn't eat much dinner. Then nobody cut it.
I noticed you picked your roast beef and didn't even touch your whipped potatoes.
There was some mince in here earlier. Where did they go to? Never mind.
I'll get you something. Can sit on the sofa, Anthony?
I have to make a phone call. If you ladies will excuse me.
Gladly.
Betty's off to tell the writer the good news.
What good news?
That Edward has gone to meet his maker. me was the man who was gonna have him disbarred dead. I bet that Jameson guy will pay him a fortune for a story on Edward's death. Edward Worthington III has been murdered.
I told you Lawrence was a snake.
You won't get an argument from me.
You rang? Yes, if my answer were ahead, will you find something to say?
Of course. It may take a minute, though. That detective searched me the whole kitchen, the cabinets, the refrigerator, everywhere. But I'll do what I can.
Search in the kitchen. Only got 4.
Maybe he's hungry too.
Perhaps I should see a doctor.
You look a little green around the gills, Roy.
Still have a headache. I went into the guest suite bathroom, but I couldn't find any aspirin.
Well, it is bringing some snacks if you'd like to join us.
Isn't that better? Which would you rather do? Breathe or bleed?
I'll manage this way. I'm ready to put it out.
What happened?
This is Vickers punched me in the nose.
But whatever happened to good topics of conversation, like the weather?
Let's talk about murder. Look, I know I said I wasn't stupid to using low humor. Straighten up, Lawrence.
Oh, all right. Apologies, Walter.
And Tony, take that toilet paper out of your nose. You look like a walrus.
Thank God.
Let's talk about murder.
So, Lieutenant McMillan, do you know who killed my husband, my ex-husband?
Not future husband? Bubba? Not yet. But the head of our crime lab, Pete, passed on some very interesting information that might prove to be relevant.
I don't suppose you'd tell us what it is.
When the time is right.
Excuse me, Lieutenant McMillan. Miss Deborah told us Miss Beatrice was hungry and requested we bring out some food.
We thought we might bring some snacks for the others as well. After Mr. Worthington's announcement, I didn't seem to have much of an appetite. Roast beef, hardly eaten. My Brussels sprouts were hardly even touched.
We're nibbles. How nice.
Really?
Certainly. Mrs. Vickers, all of the household seems to have migrated back to the living room, except for Mr. Tate. Will you please find him and bring him in here?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Help yourselves.
You want to see me, Lieutenant Mills?
Yes, Lawrence. Remain with us, please. Have a seat.
Lieutenant McMillan, I have a headache. I don't feel at all well.
Perhaps it's something you ate, like potatoes.
If we're questioning, I'd like to volunteer to go next and get it over with.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips, but I'm not going to be questioning you. They are. As you recall, in Act 2, I intended to question each of the suspects individually, but my call to Pete at the crime lab furnished a very important clue that I had to follow up on. In order to conclude this play at a decent hour, which I'm sure you would all enjoy, I'm going to need your help. At this point, I'm going to allow you to question or accuse any of the suspects you believe to be the killer. For this, you're going to need the house lights. Since Mr. Phillips volunteered to go first, we'll start with him. Keep in mind, the killer will no doubt lie to protect him or herself. Will all of you in the audience who think Mr. Phillips murdered Edward Worthington, please stand? If not, if you don't want to stand, just raise your hands if you have questions for him. I will call on you in turn. I need questions. Trust me, we can be here all night. Not moving along until we get some questions from Mr. Phillips. Yes?
Why was he feeling so sick?
I have a problem with having headaches whenever I feel nervous.
One more question. Yes.
So, he was stabbed in the back, and if he was right in front of you, does that mean you were behind him?
Well, I was a bit farther back, so I don't think it's possible I could have reached and gone all the way up to him and stabbed him.
Excellent questions. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Peter, please stand. Hello. Are there any questions for me? Yes.
How angry were you that you were going to get sent to a home, that you stabbed him in the back?
Angry? I wasn't angry. I was surprised.
Any other questions for Beatrice? Yes.
Why such great disdain for black olives?
They taste nasty. Doesn't everyone think so?
I sure do, Miss Beatrice. Any other questions? Thank you, Miss Beatrice. Miss Deborah. Please stand. All right, I need some questions for Deborah. Yes.
Wanted to know how old you were.
I'm 23 years old.
Yes.
You're pretty good at stealing money. Did you need your dad's money too?
Oh, my mom already had my dad's money. I don't need to steal it.
What do you study in college?
I'm studying law, economics, everything that I love.
Thank you, Miss Deborah. All right. On to the household staff. If you have questions for any of the staff members, please raise your hands. Yes.
What's your deal with the whipped potato, chef?
Well, if you had good taste, maybe you would understand.
It's getting hot in here. All right. More questions. Yes.
When was the last time you sharpened your knife?
Good sharp knife doesn't need sharp knife.
Let's get some questions for the other staff members. Like I said, we can be here all night. Raise those hands. Yes.
Oh, Edith, see, why, what, I see, sorry. You seem like you don't have an intent to murder. Wouldn't that make you sort of, more suspicious? My lack of motive makes me suspicious? Yeah. I never considered murdering my boss. I value this job. I enjoy working with Mrs. Vickers, even though she's violent.
Yes, one more question.
What did Tony do in the garden that gave him a bloody nose?
Don't worry about
One more question.
How long since Hollister had a raise?
I think that's a touchy subject. Too long.
I'm paid the proper amount.
All right, thank you, staff. Lawrence, on your feet. Now, questions for Lawrence? Yes.
Why do you seem to think that you were definitely not the one?
Let's just ditch the questions and look at the situation through a professional lens. A professional would look at the situation and say,
Oh, that's Lawrence. He's innocent.
a professional, like, thank you, of course. I'm innocent, as I was saying.
All right. Yes.
How much were you looking to gain off selling that story?
I didn't sell any story. It was all a lie made up by that thief, Beatrice. You've seen what she's done. Stealing items around the house.
Well, you can't go accusing me like that.
You killed him, so I'm asking you why.
Listen, I know you have a grudge against me after that last date.
Hey, I'm gonna have to jump in here. I don't want any lovers' quarrels interrupting my show. You guys can resolve this after the performance. All right. Questions from someone who's not Ken. Yes.
Well, other than mooching off your brother-in-law, what do you do other than being a playboy and being a mooch?
I go to Sunday church. Sometimes I might go to retirement homes.
Congratulations. One more question for Tony. Yes. Oh, wait. Sorry. In the back. Do you have a question? No? That's okay, sweetheart. We can go back to you.
Did you kill him so you could date Edith?
I mean, I always have something I like to say, a motto, in which if I can get to it in any way possible, I would. But murder is not one of those ways. I would never commit a murder just so I could get with someone.
All right. Thank you. Sit down. Allegra, please stand. Oh, we already have a question. Yes.
Did you kill Edward?
Yes.
Edward, because he wanted to be with Peggy Sue?
Now, that is a good question, but I was in front of him, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't have stabbed him in the back if I was in front of him.
Yes, you could.
In the back, yes.
You double jointed because you could just kind of like.
Innocent.
Yes.
What do you and your brother have to gain from this double homicide?
What do you mean double homicide?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think we have our killer in the audience.
I would really have nothing to gain because killing a person is not something that is in my bucket list.
That's why your brother did it.
Unfortunately.
Very interesting. Sit down, Allegra. Now, obviously, no one would suspect such a sweet thing like Peggy's. Oh boy. Here we go again. Yes.
Why are you suspicious?
Maybe it's because I'm just so sweet, unlike her. I'm just very loving and kind, unlike her.
Okay. Is that why you killed him?
I mean, as I told him before he died, it's not just for the money, honey. I love him too. And why would I kill the person I love, you know?
Well, you didn't kill him, so, I mean, are you going to tell me why?
Okay, that's enough. Thank you for that interesting input. I'll take it into consideration. More questions for Peggy Sue. Yes.
When she was being all kind, it just made her more suspicious.
That is a good thing to say, but I didn't kill him. I mean, I just loved him, and I mean, who would kill the person they love? And I had nothing to gain because Allegra would have gotten it because, as she had stated, if he were to drop dead before she divorced him, she would get all the money.
You mean he's dropping on us?
No, I just happened to hear from his top of the staircase.
Excuse me.
Hey! Keep it simple. And you sitting here are very lovely. One more, and then we're proceeding.
Maybe you're just being nice, so if you killed him, you wouldn't be the suspect.
That is another good point. But a few things would go against what your point is. I was standing over there, and he was standing right there, hence where he fell.
Maybe the one in the front was a cardboard statue, huh?
We don't quite have the budget for that one. Thank you for all those questions. I greatly appreciate your participation. Now, it's time to proceed to the climax of the film and figure out who indeed murdered Edward Worthington III. Auslitz. As we've learned, any of you could have killed Edward Worthington, but only one of you did so. The question is, who?
Beatrice? What are you doing?
Getting rid of those black things. I don't like them.
Oh, for goodness sake, Beatrice. I thought they were like bugs or something. Don't throw olive slices on the ground.
I thought they were bugs too.
Olive slices?
Black olive slices. I use them on my orders.
I see. Miss Beatrice, I your hors d'oeuvres before dinner tonight?
Oh, yes, Lieutenant. I never eat them. They taste nasty.
Interesting. And did anyone else remove the olive slices from their hors d'oeuvres tonight?
I confess. I picked a pimento off one and put it onto the side of my plate. Surely playing with food isn't a crime, Lieutenant. Shouldn't you be solving the murder?
That's exactly what I'm doing. In fact, I'm the one who killed the man. Eat it! You stated you wiped the knife off with a dish towel before bringing it in here. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And nobody touched it after that?
Yes, sir, but what?
I see. So, only one person could have left traces of the substance my crime lab chief, Pete, found on the handle. Oil. Olive oil.
That's what you were searching the kitchen for.
Yes, but I was looking for bottled oil that you cook with.
I don't use it. I use Crisco.
So I noticed. It didn't occur to me to look for a jar of olives themselves, but obviously they were the source of the oil that Miss Worthington passed from her fingertips to the murder weapon.
Oh no!
Miss Beatrice, if you'll come with me, please.
I suppose so. Where are we going, Lieutenant?
To jail, Miss Worthington. I'm arresting you for the murder of your brother.
You think I killed Edward? You think I killed Edward? Well, maybe I did. It was so confusing in the dark. I don't remember very well.
Wait, Lieutenant McMillan. Miss Beatrice didn't kill anyone. She couldn't hurt a fly. I murdered the master.
Can you believe that? The butler did it?
Hollister, if you weren't going to the slammer, I'd give you a raise.
Ladies, please, this is no laughing matter. Who's joking? You'd better explain.
Yes, sir. You see, over the years I have grown very fond of Miss Beatrice. The reason I have never married is because I love her deeply. Though I could never admit so. It wouldn't be the proper thing to do.
Oh, Hollister, how sweet.
As you that Mr. Worthington would send you away. When you crossed the room in the dark to the table,
How did you know that?
I smelled her perfume, primrose. Then I heard the knife clatter as she picked it up. I feared she intended to use it to stab her brother. I couldn't let that happen, so I crossed to her and felt for her hands and took the knife from her.
And stabbed the man yourself?
I hadn't intended to, but he fell against me, and I know you won't believe that it was an accident, but
Oh, Hollister, I wasn't going to kill Edward. He was my little Bubba. I thought the knife looked pretty. It had such a nice, shiny blade. So while no one could see, I was going to take it and hide it. I like to hide lovely things.
I understand, Miss Beatrice. Forgive me for misjudging you. It appears I have made an unfortunate mistake, sir. I'm prepared to do penance for the deed.
You've been a real gentleman's gentleman, Hollister. Up until you killed your wife, that is.
Thank you, Ina. I trust you and Mrs. Vickers will continue to look after Miss Beatrice. I fear I shall not be returning.
Don't worry about it.
Hollister, if you'll come with me to the parlor, I'm going to need to give headquarters a call. All of you remain here. Since you witnessed Hollister's confession, I'm going to need to take a statement from each of you.
Dear man.
Don't worry, Annie. We'll find a good lawyer to represent him and sit on the sofa.
A good lawyer? Now, how exactly do you intend on paying for one? I appreciate Hollister for getting rid of that old ogre, but I don't intend on spending a fortune to defend him.
You're a pretty goody, Luna Allegra.
Those are her better qualities.
Needless to say, you and your brat won't be getting any more handouts either. And as for Beatrice, a rest home is where she belongs. I'm afraid Hollister's efforts were in vain. I intend to send her to one, the cheapest one I can find.
Oh my.
You wouldn't.
No, I know, sis. She would.
Louse, you're horrible. Mrs. Vickers, you were right. Tony's a terrible man.
I figured you'd realize that sooner or later. glad it's sooner.
While we're cleaning house, Roy, I expect your resignation tomorrow.
But,
Your business methods leave a lot to be desired.
but, I explained.
Oh, I don't blame you for what you did. I just don't want you doing it with my money.
But it's not your money,
What?
and it never will be. Edward left a will. I'll schedule a more formal reading of it later, but I'll tell you all the gist of it now. He left everything to his daughter Deborah, with two provisions. First, should she marry, she will retain her maiden name. And if she should produce a son, she will name him Edward Worthington IV after him.
I don't have any problem with that.
Also stipulated that you're to provide care to his sister Beatrice for the rest of her life.
I don't have sons like Levy anyway. Gee, Mom, I think Father really took care of me something.
What do you know? The old boy had a heart after all.
What about me? What did he leave me? I gave him the best years of my life.
What he told me, that's not saying a lot.
Your Louis Vuitton luggage has many clothes as you can pack into them, period.
Luggage? You mean I killed your pipeline for nothing? Sis! I too heard the nice clatter and saw it faintly glimmer when Beatrice picked it up. I knew someone behind it was holding it, but I didn't know if that person had the guts to stab him in the back. So I gave him a shove backwards, and I did help skewer the man. I'm glad I did it too.
That's very interesting. Hollister, seems I'm going to have another use for these.
I'm glad to return Don't say anything else.
I'm afraid it's a little late for that advice, Mr. Blackwell. It appears when Hollister said Edward fell against the knife, he was telling the truth. He isn't the killer, but the woman who pushed her husband onto the blade is. Allegra Worthington, I'm arresting you for the murder of your husband, Edward Worthington III.
Fine. Take me away. I don't care. Just get me out of this house.
It's my pleasure. My men are arriving in a car. We can wait for them out front.
Good riddance!
Finally, somebody used the front door.
Mister, why didn't you tell me how you felt ages ago? It wouldn't have been the proper thing to do, Miss Beatrice. Pitbull, we'll discuss this subject later, in private. Yes, madam.
Hollister, it will have solved your problem if you were no longer enemies after. I think it's time for you to retire, and you're welcome to live in Wellington Manor as long as you like.
Oh, Miss Deborah.
Miss Vickers, Anya, Edith. You're part of my family. You show me more love than your mother would ever able to. I commend you ever leave.
Oh, Deborah? About my job?
No one can deny you enlisted Father's name wrong, and I'm not sure I approve your method. But you may continue to act as the financial advisor for Warrington Enterprises, and I expect you to meet with me every Friday to go over book. And if I find anything irregular,
You won't. The figures will look like textbook examples.
I
If you're taking over management of the company, Deborah, you'll need a good lawyer more than ever.
don't worry, Lawrence. It's between us. Me and Mom will find a good lawyer that doesn't destroy his client's confidence.
You mean I'm fired?
Like a gas grill on the 4th of July. And Lawrence, you can tell that writer fella Jameson that he's wasting his time. If anyone should be writing a biography on Edward, it should be me.
Mom, are you really?
Yes, dear, if you'll help. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea. He did pay you alimony when he don't have to, and he left a million and me.
If you need someone to take shorthand and top it up, I'm a darn good secretary.
Mom.
Oh, why not? You did take Edward from Allegra. I owe you something for that.
You can stay on board Peggy soon.
Thanks very much. To be honest, I'm glad I'm working with women for a change. No more snakes.
Well, I guess that covers just about everyone but me. Where do I stand?
Out in the cold, Tony. You just know me so properly. You're a terrible man. If I ever see you around here after tonight, I will stick the dogs to you.
You don't own any dogs.
I'll buy some. Lieutenant McNeil and men arriving. Oliver
great in stripes.
We hope you enjoyed yourselves. We sure did. Good night!